Well, thinking about what I argued in my article that came out of my presidential address about how we need to rethink the socioeconomic causes of inequality, actually, what I was trying to say is not so much that we should think more about the socioeconomic causes, but rather that we shouldn't think about socioeconomic effects as separate from cultural effects. That is, when we talk about difference, the reason we're interested in talking about difference is because we're interested in talking about inequality. We're not thinking about difference as neutral in terms of its impact on people. We're interested in difference because we see things like racial and gender discrimination as producing effects that put people in better or worse circumstances in terms of their lives. And so that can manifest itself in many ways, not only socioeconomic inequality, but that is one of the ways in which it manifests itself. And so what I was really arguing is that we have tended to think that since the cultural/linguistic turn, that we're no longer really addressing matters of material inequality. But I think we are. I think what we need is to think about how one translates into the other, because we have been very concerned to avoid any kind of sort of overly reductionist or simplistic causation, that is, this causes that. I think we have been therefore overly cautious about making connections to people being impoverished, people being disadvantaged, and the way in which society constructs images about certain people. Both positive and negative images. So that was really what I was trying to get at in the article that came out of my presidential address. As for how it's affected my view of the world and beyond my own research on race and regional identity in Brazil, well, first of all, it's an idea I think that travels. One of my hopes is that not just Latin Americanists, but people who work outside of Latin America will be able to look at some of the arguments I make in my book about the relationship between place and difference and inequality, and translate it into areas that may have some very different features, but nonetheless share some of the same processes that produce spatial inequalities in other societies. So I'm hoping that this is not something that is strictly a Latin American study or of interest to only Latin Americanists. But I think, one of my great goals in life as a historian and also as a human being is to question particularly anyone in a position of comfort and privilege, that they are in this position of comfort and privilege because they deserve to be, and that other people who are disadvantaged and suffering or in one way or another are there because somehow they deserve to be where they are. I always want to question that sense of and even within academia, I know there are people in academia who think, well, I have this great job at this leading university because my work is so much better than other people's work. And yet I know lots of people who are teaching 4 courses a semester at a minor state university in a small town in the Midwest who are doing also really terrific work. So I think we have to constantly ask ourselves, how did people get sorted out so that some people are getting more benefits than others? And in what ways is it not simply a function of our merit, and the way we construct merit? And so for me, that's really what this is about. It's about contesting an idea that one region is poor because in some sense that population just hasn't figured out how to get their act together, and another region is rich because that population works hard and strives and does everything right. And that may seem like a very simple point that everybody would agree with, but I think it's one thing to say it, it's another thing to really constantly have it inform the way you think about the world. And so I think that focusing on this project has really helped me think about the world in that way.